This episode is brought to you by Small Space Pilates, an online community of live classes and videos consisting of Pilates, strength, and stretch classes that help you become longer, leaner, and stronger. Small Space Pilates is an online community where you don't have to be perfect. You can wear your comfy clothes and turn your space into your own personal fitness studio. To learn more, go to smallspacepilates.com, and remember, it's not just a class, it's a community. Welcome to the Sisters in Service podcast. My name is Kat Corchado, also known as the voice connecting women veterans nationwide. This podcast is for anyone connected with the military, from veterans, male and female, military spouses, military brats, even parents who may have children who are in the military. As an Air Force veteran, I understand the trials and triumphs that women veterans go through in service and out of service. And so I wanted to find a way that I could put it out there into the airwaves and let everyone know what we're going through and find a way and a solution to what's happening to us in the service. I also like to highlight these women who are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're bosses in their business. And so I hope that you will follow me, you will share, and you will subscribe to this podcast, which comes out every week on Tuesdays. And as always, please stay safe, take care of each other until next time. And it's never too late to start your impossible. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Sisters in Service podcast. And today my guest is Bree Fram. And she is an active duty lieutenant colonel and astronautical engineer in the United States Space Force. She's also the president of SPARTA, which is a nonprofit that advocates and educates about transgender military service and is dedicated to the support and professional development of over 1,700 transgender service members. Bree came out publicly as transgender on the day the transgender ban in the military was dropped in 2016 and transitioned while in a command position. She served through the ban of transgender military from 2019 to 2021. She is currently one of the highest ranking transgender officers in the United States military. Bree has appeared on ABC, NBC Nightly News, PBS News Hour, NPR, and many others. I just want to say that I met Bree at the Joint Women's Leadership Symposium in, God, when was that, Bree? August? July?
June, I think.
June. And I was just fascinated by, I sat in on a panel she was in, and I really wanted to ask her to be on Sisters in Service. And she, said yes, of course. And so I want to welcome Bree. Thank you, Bree, for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
And you too. My first question for you is, and I ask this of all, whether they're veterans or active duty military, I know that you started out as Air Force. Did you pick the Air Force or did the Air Force pick you?
I picked the Air Force. Growing up and as someone who was fascinated by all things space and, I wanted to be Geordi from Star Trek The Next Generation. I wanted to make the warp engines go. When it came time for me to enter the military, and this was mostly because of September 11th, I had graduated college, my worldview changed, and it was my way to give back, but to also do the things that I really cared about and be a part of creating space systems and defending our country. So the Air Force was the right pick for me.
So astronautical engineer, I mean, that's just, I'm sorry. When I hear engineer, I think math, and I was never good at math. Was that always an interest of yours? Is that how you wanted, is this what you wanted to do when you came into the military?
Yes, it is. Well, really what I wanted to do was be an astronaut. That had been my dream, to go into space. And having that technical background and then hopefully being a flight test engineer and then applying to NASA as a military astronaut would have been my ideal career path. But it was always a means to an end to do cool things in and with space-related technologies.
That's wow. You had such, I went in the military just saying, I need to figure out what I want to do for the next few years of my life. I mean, you had like dreams and stuff. That's so awesome. So how did you transition from Air Force to Space Force. What was that like for you? Was it an opportunity? Did they say, hey, do you want to do this? Or did you say, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it?
Yeah, what an opportunity it was, is how I look at it. There were just one career field that had to transfer from the Air Force to the Space Force. I was in one of the handful of others that had the option of transferring. But to me, as a space dedicated person who'd done space related assignments for the vast majority of my career, it was a no brainer, because what an amazing opportunity to be there at the beginning, to do something I love, but to also get the chance to help build what a 21st century military culture looks like. Because we don't get to have new services very often. 75
Absolutely.
years since the Air Force was born. So this is maybe a once a century type opportunity. And so, yeah, couldn't pass up the opportunity as to do something amazing.
That's very cool. I mean, you're probably in the military history books as one of the first to be in on this Space Force thing. I just thought it was very cool.
Yeah, it really was the first opportunity. Please sign me up. And then it was just waiting on pins and needles till the Senate finally said, yep, you're in the Space Force. But when I first got that announcement, it almost felt like a proposal. And I said yes to the Space Force.
You're like, sign me up. I'm doing this. That's very cool. So at what age did you know that you were transgendered?
So I knew there was something different about myself from a really early age. Like at 3 and 4, I was Wonder Woman alongside my sister for Halloween. By the time I was 9 or 10, I was in my mom's things, and I didn't know what the words were really to describe it at the time. We're back pre-internet days, and as I started to get old enough to try and go to the library and find books and figure out what this was, it was still difficult. And it still at the time, without the knowledge of myself that I have today, felt like something I liked to do. Wasn't sure that it was identity. And it was that journey through my adult experiences that later led me to realize, no, this is who I am. This is important. But even from the early age, I knew it was something that wasn't going away. It was a part of me. I just didn't have the words to describe it.
That must be really frustrating. And you know that you're different in some way, but you're trying to search. Like you said, it was pre-internet. You go to the library. There probably wasn't a whole lot at the library about it. And you couldn't just really go ask somebody. So you kind of keep it locked inside a little bit.
Very much so, because society has these expectations on you of this is who you are. And if everyone is telling you this is who you are, it takes a lot to break from that. So kids today that, have that sense of self that is so strong of this is who I am, and they say it to the world from the beginning, that's amazing. But they also have the benefit of seeing representation on
Yes.
TV, in the media, having access to so much more information than we previously did, that becomes incredibly powerful, and enables you to realize you're not alone. Because that was what that quest for information for me was like early on is, am I alone? Am I the only one that feels like this?
Absolutely. So you went into the military knowing you were feeling this. Did you go into the military knowing that there was going to be a change? Or did you say, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to be that astronaut and I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah, that was really it. That I didn't know anything was going to change. We were still in the middle of the don't ask, don't tell era. So the concept of open trans service was way far off in the future. Uh, but I had a higher priority in my life. It was something that I set aside because I wanted to give back. I wanted to defend the country that I loved, that had just been attacked, and that I felt I had something to give to. And it was my honor to serve. But the challenge in doing all of that, and we learn this through all the people that serve through Don't Ask, Don't Tell and through the trans ban, is that you can be good at what you do, you can be great at what you do, but you can't be your best. And that impacts not only the individual, but the unit and the country. So when we have to serve in silence, it's a detriment all around, even though, it may be something that we might not have done otherwise. We'll take this opportunity. We'll do what we can, knowing that we're not doing it at our best.
And you can't be your best you if you're hiding part of who you are. It's, you're kind of, you're doing great things and you're best at your job, but you're not your best you if you have to hide that part of you. Is that correct?
Oh, that's absolutely true. Because what you're doing is you're filtering your thoughts and your words. You basically have to put this thing in your brain that sits in between what your thoughts are and what comes out of your mouth or what you write about, because you can't let anyone know who you are, who you were with, what you were wearing, where, what your interests may really be. And you're protecting yourself at all times.
Yes.
So when you're spending that time and energy protecting who you are, that's energy that you could be using to focus on the mission, to develop relationships with other people. So there's a big opportunity cost in protecting identity.
And it's exhausting.
Isn't
it?
And it's just that much more so for people where it's, if I reveal this, I might lose my job. I might lose everything that I care so deeply about. But we all do it. We all protect and modify the way we're showing ourselves to the world. This just takes it to another level where the consequences are so high.
Yes.
That if I said I'm trans, I'm like, oh, tomorrow I no longer have a job, a career, because of something that had nothing to do with my ability to serve.
So let's take us back to the day that the military dropped the transgender ban. Did you already know that as soon as that day came that you were going to tell your command? Was it something you had planned? You knew exactly how you were going to do it? Or was it just oh, by the way?
Part of it was planned, part of it was off the cuff. By working with the organization that I'm currently president of, SPARTA, had some inside knowledge that this was coming. So there was a little bit of time to plan, but there wasn't we knew exactly when it was going to occur. So in 2016, we're in June, it's Pride Month, it's the last year of the Obama administration. We thought, this is probably it. This seems to be when all the tea leaves are showing that something's going to happen. So I started getting ready. But it wasn't until nearly the very end of the month that the Secretary of Defense made the announcement that trans people could serve openly. So because I had that inkling, I did tell my commander a few days ahead of that I planned to come out when that announcement was made. Because no one wants to surprise their boss with big news like that. Have that conversation ahead of time. But when the secretary did speak, I was working in the Pentagon at the time, and I thought about going down to his briefing room and being a fly on the wall in the back. Thought better of it, stayed at my desk, watched on the closed circuit TV that we had. And when he was done, I had an email ready to go to my colleagues and a Facebook post to go out to the world announcing that I was trans and giving my reasons why I'm coming out, why this was so important. But even then, I was nervous.
Of course.
When the secretary finished speaking, thinking, what's the reaction going to be? Because this is a huge change. I'd only told a tiny handful of people in my life up to this point. And so I took a moment and eventually hit send, hit post, and then I ran away.
Your heart rate goes up.
Way up. So I found the gym at the Pentagon buried underneath there, got on the elliptical machine, and I went nowhere faster than I had ever gone anywhere in my life, with all the nervous energy that I had, wondering, what's the reaction going to be? But when I got back to my desk, one by one, my colleagues walked over to me, shook my hand, and said, it's an honor to serve with you. And I was floored. The honor was all mine, but I realized my privilege in having that reaction, in being white, having a track record of performance, working in a nerdy career field in the Air Force. I had a lot of things going for me that may not have been the same for everyone. But by and large, my experience has been replicated by people where they're welcomed for who they are because they contribute to the mission. And that's what we care about.
Absolutely. Did you feel any backlash at all for coming out? Have you witnessed that at all, or has it all been positive?
So the backlash that I and really my family experienced was much of my wife's family had a very negative reaction. Many of them don't speak with her to this day.
Oh, it's so sad.
Her parents took about a year to start speaking with her again. Anything beyond "How are the kids?" And it was tough because I received so much love, and she lost friends and family that she thought were so important and so connected to her, merely over who she loves, and that was brutal. On the military side, I have received almost nothing but support. It's truly been incredible. But again, my rank protects me from a lot of things, as do the relationships that I had the chance of building over 15 years in service at that point. So there could be discrimination against me, but I don't see it. If it
Right.
happens, it's happening behind my back or in rooms that I'm just not in.
Being transgender, how does that, do you know how open the other branches of the military are to transgender? Is it equal across the board or is it per branch?
So we have Department of Defense wide policy that says we can serve, we can access medical care that is necessary for all of us to be our best selves. But individually, each service has a policy that then implements that. So there is some variation in how the services implement policy, but trans people can serve openly across the entirety of the branches. Now, do experiences vary? Absolutely. But again, that's based on so many things about who the person is, what their rank is, what the color of their skin might be, and what their experiences have been up to that point with the military. So most people have wonderful experiences and get to be their best selves, but there are challenges out there, and people do experience discrimination and bias. And we need to also continue improving those policies because they were written to implement something. And then they were thrown into disarray because we had a new president that said, "I'm not interested in any of that." And in
Right.
fact, you trans people, you are a burden on the service. So we're operating with policies that never really had a chance to improve until now. So we're working on that to make sure we have better policies that take care of people, enable them to be their best selves, and don't put any extra burden on them that's totally unnecessary.
Absolutely. And that leads me into my next question is you come out, you feel good about that part of it, and you're living your best life, and then the ban came. What was it, 2019 to 2021? Tell our audience how you felt during that time.
Talk about a roller coaster of emotions because we had this amazing moment of euphoria in 2016 where people can come out. And over the next year or so, we have about 1,600 service members come out and serve openly as trans. But in the summer of 2017, that's when President Trump tweeted that the US military could neither accept nor allow transgender people to serve because of the tremendous disruption we were on the ranks. And this is despite all four service chiefs testifying to Congress that there had been no issues related to transgender people serving openly. So this lightning bolt out of the blue, where did this come from? What now? How do we react to basically your commander in chief attempting to fire you via tweet? And so figuring out how to rally everyone and what's next, what do you do? Is a tweet an order? How does that work? Um, so the message we had to give to folks was, you know what? Lace up your boots, go to work, and do your job. Complete the mission until you
Yes.
are dragged kicking and screaming away from the service to the country that you care about. And what happened was there was, some time to try and turn that tweet into official order. There were court cases against it. But it took almost 2 years until eventually the Supreme Court said, while these court cases work, administration, you can go ahead and implement this ban. So in 2019, as you mentioned, we formally had a policy that no one knew could come out and no one knew could get into the service. So those few thousand of us that had come out in the intervening years we're like an endangered species. The hope was that we would just slowly attrit over time and the environment would be so unpleasant that we would just want to leave the service. So serving through that was a complete act of resilience for thousands of service members saying, we're going to get through this. We, by our very example, are going to prove just how much we belong. And in 2021, thankfully, we reversed course, new executive order was signed, and trans people can serve openly again. But we remain at the whim of a future president with a stroke of a pen to dictate our service. And maybe surprisingly, that's the same for every other minority group that has been incorporated into the military.
Absolutely.
African-Americans, women.
I remember the same exactly. When they were talking about, oh, we don't want gay people in the military. And I was like, okay, I've heard the same thing about blacks. I've heard the same thing about women, and even when the transfer, I'm like, this is the same argument. You just change the name. It's the same thing. If you can serve, if you're able to serve, why can't you serve? That's how I feel about it. But it must have been really difficult during that time because you felt like you were holding your breath the whole time.
Oh, it was really challenging to get through that. And what made it even scarier as we tried to get through that is within the policy that banned trans folks was this exception that allowed those of us that had come out when it was okay to continue serving. Yet in the policy, it said that should a court find our example of service as a reason to strike down the policy as discriminatory, the clause allowing us to continue serving would be stricken and we would all immediately be kicked out of the military. So we were in this weird bind of, we want the court to find this to be discriminatory and unconstitutional, but if it does, we're done. How do we navigate that? And so, you're right. Holding your breath, feeling that the executioner's axe was behind your neck at all times. It was scary. It was challenging. And we're so happy to be on the other side of that.
Absolutely. What do you think of the fact that, or let me rephrase this. Do you think that coming out as an officer is different than coming out as enlisted?
I think there are certainly some different aspects to it, particularly with the policy as we have it today, because so many of these things require commander approval. And as an officer, you tend to have a lot easier access to your commander, maybe even a close or personal relationship with them. So it does tend to make things a little easier to navigate, reduces the number of levels you have to walk through to get the services that you need. So in that aspect, it's certainly different. But at other levels, it's very similar because it's about who are you? How are you contributing to the team? And whether you're an officer or an enlisted member, what do we care about? It's, do I look to my left and look to my right and say, that person's a contributing member of the team. They have my back if we're up against it. That's what we care about. And so for all of us, it's really about how do we contribute and are you a valuable member of the team?
Absolutely. What kind of advice would you give someone who's listening and they happen to be enlisted or officer, but they're just on the fence? They're kind of just really, they want to come out, but something's holding. What kind of advice would you give them about that?
It's really hard to give general advice in that situation because everyone's circumstance are so different. And for some people, particularly those that are air crew or on other special duty, if they come out today, just for saying I'm trans, they may be grounded or lose ability to do their job potentially for years as our system tries to figure out how do we deal with it, even if they were doing the same job as the same person the day before. So there are challenging circumstances. Other people have family considerations. But if you set all that aside, I'll go back to what we talked about at the beginning. If you're serving in silence, you're not serving as your best self.
Yes.
And so you may have the calculus in your head that, okay, that's good enough. I'm okay. I have other priorities that are ahead of it right now. But many of us, myself included, just reach that point where we're like, I am up against a wall. To be better as a leader, to be better as a commander, to be better as a human, I have to be out and be who I am and be authentic in everything I do, because it opened up a world of possibilities, a world of connections with my folks that I didn't know were there before, and otherwise opened my eyes to so many things and allowed me to flourish.
Absolutely. I remember back, in the olden days when I was serving, that if like I had a top secret clearance, and just to admit that you maybe had a drinking problem, you were, suffering with some kind of mental health issue, you could get your clearance either dropped or pulled, just for admitting that. I think it's a little, it's not so bad now. But I can imagine that anyone who has a clearance is probably thinking about that, because that's probably still in the back of their mind that they could lose their clearance. And if you lose your clearance, you can't do your job. And in the military, if you can't do your job, they're
Yeah,
like, oh, it's at
it's
the convenience of the military that we want you to leave. So, I can totally understand why someone might be holding on to that. Can you tell our audience some common misconceptions about being transgender?
Sure. So, one of the most common ones is that gender identity and sexual orientation are linked, uh, and that one is absolutely not true. All of us, our both our sexual orientation and our gender identity are on binary scales or
Mhm.
non-binary scales. So, from one end of male to one end of female, or heterosexual to gay. There's all variations in between, and the two don't connect. And we can express ourselves and be who we are on any ends of those spectrums. The other, I think, really common one is that trans people are these extremes. For someone like myself who transitioned to female, the perception is that we're just these weeping hormonal messes that all we want to think about is what we're going to wear, or that we can't return fire from our foxhole because we're too busy thinking about our gender identity. Like, nothing could be further from the truth. And for transgender men, that they're steroidal rage monsters and they're going to get everyone killed. But all we've done is move from what society views as one set of normal to another set of normal. And we're as diverse and as varied as everyone else. We serve for a diverse set of reasons.
Yes.
So it's really just, we're human. We have this connection with others that we can build over all these other shared pieces of our identity. And we're not the boogeyman. There's no second head growing out of my shoulder or anyone else's.
I just look at it that, no matter who you are, that if we're on the battlefield, you've got my back,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah, we prove that over and over again, not just with trans folks, but with groups prior to this, as we mentioned already. But you can talk now to a lot of people that served through Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And in the Air Force, for example, they'll say, yeah, of course we knew who in the squadron was gay or a lesbian, but it didn't matter because we were there to do our jobs together.
Absolutely. Let's talk about SPARTA a little bit. How did you get involved with SPARTA?
So I got involved in Sparta through a friend of a friend who was like, I know this organization. I think it would be valuable for you to get connected with them. But that was at the time where Sparta had to operate in that way, where it was totally word of mouth, because this was before any of us who were trans could say so publicly. So it was this underground organization that everyone who was a face of the organization had to be an ally. And we couldn't have leadership that happened to be trans. So pulling together this group of trans folks in the military very slowly over years, just to deliver that message of, you're not alone. We're out there. We're trying to figure out, how do we make open service a reality? How do we show the military and the American public that who we are is okay, that we can do our jobs just like everyone else, that we wear the uniform in the same way. Again, that we're not these outlandish stereotypes. And I think SPARTA has done an amazing job of that simply by telling our stories.
Does Sparta help at all with someone who is struggling as transgender? Do they give them any kind of support, in helping them with that, or in, speaking with their command, or giving them that support that they need?
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest things that we offer to our members is those ability to connect with one another and say, here's my situation, here's the challenge that I'm facing. And we're able to crowdsource these solutions and these ideas from thousands of others who have been through similar circumstances. So that peer-to-peer sharing is critically important to what we're able to do. And otherwise, also able to connect people to official resources within the service or other organizations that provide those type of resources where we as a small volunteer-led organization just don't have that capacity to provide paid services.
Right. Just out of curiosity, how many transgender active duty members are there? Do you know?
Well, that's a great question and one we don't have an answer to. And a lot of that is rooted in Department of Defense policy that bars the collection of sexual orientation or gender identity data. Going back to immediately after the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the department said, well, that's a personal and private information, because the fear was that it could be used against you. So we don't have that data yet. And we're trying to change that, because if we want to make better policy, we need to know things like that. But SPARTA has approximately 1,700 members. The studies have been done that estimate that there's about 10,000 to 15,000 transgender service members serving at any one time. And we can also look at historical data from the Department of Veterans Affairs that has shown that trans people have served at twice the rate of their cisgender counterparts over time. So it's pretty amazing, and we have a huge number in service.
I just tend to think there's strength in numbers. And as the numbers grow, it's hard to deny that loud voice. You know what I mean? Of, look, some things have to change. So I think that, this is something that's, that as the numbers grow and the people have that support, that, the voices grow louder, and they have no choice but to pay attention and say, okay, let's see what we can do, because, these voices are screaming now and it's getting really loud.
Yeah, we have people in every service, in every occupational specialty, across a wide range of ranks and time in service. So, there's a lot of experience and a lot of people doing amazing things.
Bree, I want to thank you for being on Sisters in Service. Where can people find you? Like, if someone's hearing this and they want to reach out, either to find out more about SPARTA or otherwise, what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
So best way, I'll give you a couple to reach SPARTA, spartapride.org on the web, or we have a presence across all social media. A great place to find us, particularly for trans service members that want to connect and be part of that wider organization. If you want to find me particularly, my website is breefram.com. So very easy to find with just my name. Contact info is on there. So please do get in touch. Happy to talk about these things at any time.
One last question, Bree. How can someone like me, I'm a veteran, but how can we support transgender or SPARTA, or what can we do? What can I do?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and one I love to answer, because there's a handful of different things. One, the one any organization would be remiss if they didn't ask for is, say, if able, please donate, contribute to organizations that fight for human rights, that fight for all of us, whether that's SPARTA or any other organization, that invests in the dignity of individuals and makes a difference. That's incredibly important. Easier ones that don't require any money and very little action, share our stories. I think that is so important because those stereotypes that are out there are so outlandish and think we're incapable of serving. There's a great series on Sparta's website called Commitment to Serve, where we have little individual vignettes of people and their stories. Share those on social media or anything like that. There's a book out there that we wrote, 26 different stories of transgender military service with honor and integrity. Look that up on Amazon or any other bookstore. Great way to learn about the stories of trans military folks. But share the stories, it makes a difference. And the last is speak with your legislators. Write or call your congressmen, your senators, because this is going to come up again and again as we look at people being able or attempting to be banned from service in the future. We need laws in place that protect people's ability to serve.
Well, Bree, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to speak with me and my audience. And, there's always a struggle somewhere, but, I'm more than happy to join in that struggle and help any way I can. And for my audience, please stay safe, take care of each other until next time. And it's never too late to start your impossible.